In April, I visited the artist Charles Prior in Cambridgeshire. I asked him how long he'd been painting landscapes.
I always wanted to paint these landscapes, and my wife gave me some paints. So there's one on the wall there that's about 10 years old. So I've been doing it for 15 years or so, but I made a commitment to frame a piece every week about 6 months ago. Yeah, I would say. And that's been the drive then, to just to make some paintings. Because I definitely feel like I've got them in me, and it's really nice to put them out. And I never know quite what I'm going to get. It's always a little bit of a roulette wheel, but you find this, I think, if you whistle in the bath, you have a motif. If you play guitar, whatever you do, you have a thing that you do. And I'm slowly discovering what mine is, and it's one of those things where you think, oh, I'm not going to do the same thing. But Morandi did the same thing, you know, de Kooning did the same thing. Well, they all do the same, everyone does the same thing. Yeah. And some of them are right treats, and some of them are... At the back of the cave where the firelight hardly reaches is a withered old man scratching on the wall with a piece of charcoal. And no one will ever see it, you know, till some guy 2,000 years later, 6,000, 8,000 years later, hundreds of thousands of years later, goes down there with a flashlight, and then we'll see what he did. But he didn't see what he did. He just had to do something. You know, the way kids carve their desks, or prisoners write on the wall, or, you know, we make a mark, don't we? I think my sister-in-law, who's coming to help me hang an exhibition from Germany, she's coming all the way over with her little boy. Because I gave my father-in-law a painting the first Christmas that I went over there, and she framed it the following year. It looks amazing on the wall in a frame, and I'd never framed anything. So her framing this picture and putting it on Dad's wall, whenever I go to Germany now, I see this picture, and it's one of the best I've ever made. It's full of shadows and moorland and a tiny little strip of sky at the top of it. It was a vote of confidence. That's what it was. She restores art professionally, and always has done. She works in churches around Germany, and for wealthy clients who've got paintings that need restoring. And so I sort of thought, yeah, well, I can do that.
I wanted Prior to explain the process he followed painting.
This is like letting the child in me into a supermarket and asking me to make a meal, you know, for a midnight feast, and it's really exciting to see what comes out. And I'll play with all the regular ingredients, and if something resonates, I put it in the boiler room. I work on 6 or 8 canvases at once on the kitchen table. Don't use an easel anymore. And the minute one of them looks at me funny, I put it to dry, and then I'll just use up what paint I've got left and pack up for the day, knowing that there's something in the back of the cupboard that's got it going on. And then 2 days later that'll dry, because I use mediums in the paint, and I'll frame it and get on with it. And I think being a decorator, learning to trust the process and just get on with it. Like, I can paint houses. I shouldn't have to think about it. I can make paintings in frames, and I try not to think about that too much. Just get on with it, you know, and it means setting it all up, doing it, putting it all away. And it's quite a chore. It's a job, you know, it's like, but it's one that I enjoy, you know. To paraphrase an old friend who I haven't seen for a long time, you know, let the paint show off. It looks great, you know, oil paint is amazing. It's like stained glass. I challenge any stained glass artist to make a really bad window. The old boys used to do this with a mirror, but I get my camera, we've got a bit of flare on it there, but it doesn't matter. On the left you can see, and then I'll do that, and then the magic happens when you hit that button. Look at that on technology, and then, oh yeah, see, and that works for me.
Prior told me he discovered a superior oil paint.
Yeah, Old Holland. My wife gave me for my birthday last year, and apparently it's the paint. It's the same brand that Rembrandt used, and there's a lot more colours available than the ones he used. and I'm exploring them. Every time I run out of a tube, I buy 5 more and different ones, and it's just amazing paint. I've never used expensive paint, and it is expensive. And by golly, you get what you pay for. You know, it's opaque and it's rich and it's vibrant and it'll last forever. The student paints all lose their colour in a few years if you put them on a wall. I mean, I can paint for a couple of hours. I know Lucian Freud used to paint all day and all night. Lots of people do, especially youngsters. But I can paint for a couple of hours before I'm shattered from it. And I know, because I don't have a studio, I know I've got to clear up when I finish painting. So it's quite good. I used to, when I had a studio, I would very often destroy the work through fatigue. And, you know, whereas now, because I've got to tidy up at the end of the gig, I stop painting before I'm tired. And when I'm trying to make a painting, my brain is on fire with, does it work? You know, there's a phrase that, Francis Bacon would use was does it work? And if it works, it works, and it's universal language, and but inventing it is tiring. Inventing it is because you really got to commit to this birthing of a thing.
Prior had been very inspired by The Boathouse, a painting by the English artist Ivan Hitchens, which he first saw hanging at the Fitzwilliam Museum in Cambridge.
And you'll see, he wasn't very good at skies, and skies are a bit like hands are to figure painters. Hands are difficult, and skies are difficult, and he sort of tried too hard, and it's the only thing in the picture where I'd be like, shame about that sky, really. There's some little clouds done, very sort of Tony Hart style, you know, right in the far background, but your eye goes to the background, but the journey there makes up for the little clouds, because the dark water and the reflections is just sublime. I don't know how he done it, but he painted on plein air in front of it, so he must have been squinting with one eye to see the shapes with the clarity that he did, because it's so powerful. The boat is from the gunnels down, it's not there. It's just all black space, black water, and yet the boat is properly floating on its painter. And see what he did there. It's lovely. And then there's a big wall of trees.
Where did you see it first?
I bought a postcard from the Fitzwilliam 15 years ago, and I find it always enchanting, and I wish I'd bought all of the postcards because they stopped doing them. And it's so tranquil. It's a river scene. In fact, my whole wedding was orchestrated around the vibe of that picture. We punted up the cam. And I just desperately wanted, there's a bit where it's all overgrown. It's a bit like Apocalypse Now. You could be on another planet. And there's still thick water.
Is it a local picture in a sense?
No, I don't think I'm not sure where he was from. I mean, it stinks of England, I would say, you know. Knowing the effect that painting had on me, or has on me, is enough reason to just try and paint a tribute to it one day if I'm lucky, you know, something that has that.
I asked Prior to talk a little bit about his technique.
It's funny, before I was taught to write, or taught the alphabet, my mum taught me calligraphy, just the basics, how to copy and make a Christmas card. And there's something of that in you prepare a ground. So I'll make my sky, with a wash, and I'll lay it off with a big flat brush so that it almost looks like it was sprayed on. If I'm in the mood, you know, like that's a really nice place to start making a mess. And ultimately, I'll use brushes. I don't, you know, at school they used to say, use a branch about 8 foot long and tie your charcoal to the end of that and see what kind of marks you can make. And yes, but I find with a batch of brushes, and I find lately that the decorators' brushes are far superior to anything you can get in an art store. They're like rabbit's foot size sash brushes, and you can get, I mean, yeah, they're affordable, shall we say, because you hammer brushes, however careful you are and good at cleaning them, their brushes don't last forever. Buying expensive ones is kind of crazy when decorators' brushes are really good, especially like if you want to make big marks, you want to hold a lot of paint and make big marks, then that's what decorators' brushes are specifically made for.
Pryor drove us to one of his jobs. To his great satisfaction, for a number of years, he's worked as a decorator. He takes the craft very seriously.
You think, well, I can get 280 quid a day for painting houses. Why do I want to try and flog painting? The simplest things have taken the longest to learn, right? How much paint you want on your brush for a given run. A bit filler in there. You're going to tip the brush like that. It's in there like swimwear. See? You see that? Yeah. You know, people say, oh, it's only a little bathroom. I'm like, it's got more angles than your living room. I've always liked a pair of boots. I cut in, and that gives your brush something nice and slippery. Onto the top of the skirt there. Shows you any mistakes we make. Very, very, very nice paint. Should cover the mirror, and you just see imperfections that you couldn't see earlier.
Pryor is having his first exhibition in May 2025.
And so the show is like my it's like a taster menu, you know, for a chef. You know, and I practiced all the dishes and burnt a few, and like all of my canvases have seen untold, countless pictures. I suppose the average number of finished, like, oh, that's before I get to a good one, is 15. Really? Different renderings where you just say, ah, this is never going to work. So you scrub out, or you wash over, and then you start again and, you know, clear it up and arrange, put the sky back in or something like that. And there's always, you know, you think, oh, looks perfect. If only there was a bit of, oh, no, and you knacker it. And it's like, the whole process is about destroying it, and any artist will tell you that it's you put a blue wash over it. Our teacher used to say, before you whack it in a frame, and putting a blue wash over it, and then picking out the highlights and knocking in the shadows again. It 100% works, and I think in terms of mark making, you're making, like, you can make moods. You know, if you paint the negative space around the cup or the tobacco pipe or whatever, then the rendering of the cup or the tobacco pipe in the space that's left is always fascinating and compelling, and you think, wow, is that a Dutch pipe or a Dutch cup or whatever? It's that's where it's at. It's the space between the notes that makes the tune, sort of thing. But you've got to play the notes, man. You just they have to support the space, and you can't do it without an instrument or two, I suppose. And colours and brushes is a great way. You know, if you're not a chef, try brushes and colours. It works for me.
It was such a pleasure to visit the artist Charles Pryor and talk to him about his work. I don't doubt that soon it will get the respect it deserves.